padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते ताप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघ्यायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। All right, so we will start now. If you remember, we had taken the verse Janma karma chame devyam evam yoveti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti so arjuna. So this our whole this whole the story concept that we are doing about the advent of Shri Krishna is revolving around this one verse, how his janma and his karma is divya. This is what we understood first, and what happens when we understand the activities of his birth and appearance and his activities in tattva, okay, in truth. So in that regard, we first did the entire pastimes, the leelas of the Lord. Now Lord is saying the person who understands his birth and activities in tattva in detail will not take birth again. Okay, so in that regard, basically what he's trying to say is that person receives deathless, he achieves deathlessness, and in that regard we did the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. Now if the question arises that Dhruva Maharaj achieved deathlessness, but do we actually die? In that regard, we did the verse, in regard to that verse, Dehino Asmin Yatha Dehe. So we did this pastime of the child of Chitraketu Maharaj. Now, the question arises, so if we don't die, what are we scared of? So, and who, if we are scared of, basically, who are the people who are not scared, who do not get scared? In that regard, we did the story of Bharat Maharaj, because we did the 3 lifetimes of Bharat Maharaj. So when the soul just transmigrates from one body to another, there is no reason to be scared or to worry about. Then we did the pastime of, so in that regard, Shri Krishna he's explaining to us that who are the persons who are not disturbed. We understood that from Dhiras Tatruna Muhyati from 2.13. Then in 15.7, the Lord explains that why such people are not disturbed. Mami Vamsha Jiva Loke, because we all are his part and parcels. And it is only due to the soul thinks, soul is the doer, whereas the Supreme Lord is the doer, because we are part and parcels of the Lord. So in that regard, we did the pastimes of Kauravas, even though we are, all the Kauravas were parts and parcels of the Lord. And because of the false ego, they had to struggle through their mind and 6 senses. This is what we did in Mami Vamshu Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Mana Shashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. How the soul is disturbed by his 6, when in this body, when in the conditioned state, is disturbed by the 6 senses, including the mind. In that regard, we did the pastimes of Kaurava, Duryodhana specifically. Now, again, then we moved on further to the verse where we did the pastime of Gajendra Moksha, okay, where we were trying to understand that Lord is present in our heart all day long, and we will be able to relate everything with the Lord. He is present as Paramatma. Sarvasya chahamridi sannavishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarver ahameva vedo vedanta krit ved vedeva chaham. In this, it is the Lord who gives us the forgetfulness and the memory. So in that regard, we did the pastime of Gajendra Moksha, how when in trouble in the body of an elephant, he was still able to remember the prayers when he was in Indradyumna Maharaj, and he was able to offer those prayers to the Lord when he was being attacked by crocodile, and that's how he was saved. Now, after that, we did the verse number 4.7, where Krishna was talking about why does he appear? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir. This is actually when does he appear? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamayam. In this regard, we did the pastimes of Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Then why does he come? Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yoge yoge. So in this regard, we did the that how Lord came as Maryada Purushottam, as Lord Ram. Okay, now today we are going to do the verse Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhrida Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. So now that we understood that Krishna, this verse talks about that a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all the living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Srila Prabhupada named this verse as the peace formula. The question arises, why is this a peace formula? So once we understand that it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the actual doer, who is the proprietor, then nothing will disturb us. In this regard, today we are going to do the story of Govardhan. We all know the pastime of Govardhan. Why did we choose Govardhan? Because it's only after Lord Indra understood that the Supreme Personality of, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and that little boy who was able to lift the Govardhan on the left finger, the little pinky of his left hand, he is the Supreme Personality of God. Till Lord Indra understood this fact, he was extremely disturbed. He was disturbed because of his false ego, because the Vrajavasis were not offering him the sacrifice. Instead, they were offering all the sacrifice to Govardhan. This extremely caused disturbance in the mind of Indra. Lord Indra wanted to prove this to the Vrajavasis, that he is the rightful owner of those sacrifices which were not being performed for him. And in regard to prove that he is the person who deserves those sacrifice, who deserved that sacrifice, he created a havoc in Vrindavan to the extent that he tried to kill the Vrajavasis. It was literally an attempt to kill all the Vrajavasis in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, when Lord Shri Krishna, and why did Lord do this pastime? Why did he perform this Leela? Just to make Lord Indra understand that it is not like this. He wanted Lord Indra to understand that it was not necessary for Lord Indra to be puffed up because he was the king of the heaven. He was just the king of the heaven. But who's the actual king of the entire Brahman, the entire universe, the material creation? That's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Because Shri Krishna loves Lord Indra and he didn't want him to be puffed up because of his false ego, that is why he had this Leela take place, due to which Lord Indra understood that it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the actual doer. Once Lord Indra understood who is the actual benefactor and the proprietor, that's when he was at peace. And that's when he came and surrendered in front of the Lord and sought forgiveness for all his misdoings, which was actually trying to kill his favorite people. Brajvasis are Lord Krishna's best devotees, and Lord Indra was trying to harm them just because he wanted to satisfy his ego, just because he wanted to prove that because he is the king of heaven, he deserved to be worshipped and not Lord Shri Krishna. This was something which was not appropriate for his position in being the king of the heaven, because it's, what great men do, common men follow. So being in the position as a king, he was not supposed to be so puffed up, to crush his ego, to make him humble. That is why, and obviously, of course, to protect his devotees, the Lord performed this pastime. So I thought, because we all know the pastimes of Govardhan, the basic actual normal pastime which we all hear regarding Lord Indra, and how he sent the Samvartaka clouds to harm the Brajvasis, and how Lord protected all the Brajvasis by holding the Govardhan on the little finger of his left hand. This is a well-known pastime. We all hear it from time to time. I thought we'll talk more about how Govardhan appeared. So that will be something different, I would say. And maybe, I don't know if you've heard the pastime or not. So let's dive into that. Okay. Now, in Vrajadham, which is, by material calculation, it has a diameter of 84 miles. There are 12 sacred forests where Lord Krishna enjoyed many transcendental pastimes. Of these 12 forests, which are those 12 forests? Mahavan, Kamyavan, Madhuvan, Talavan, Kumudvan, Bhandirvan, Vrindavan, Khadirvan, Lohavan, Bhadravan, Bahulavan, and Bedavan. Of these 12, Vrindavan is considered to be not only the most sacred, but also the largest. Why is it sacred? Because Lord Krishna performed many of his internal and intimate and confidential pastimes on in this Vrindavan. Now, in this, situated in the middle of this vast forest, is the transcendental mountain known as Govardhan. Okay, Govardhan is in the middle of Vrindavan. Okay, now upon the slopes of this transcendental mountain, Lord Krishna enjoyed innumerable pastimes surrounded by his most confidential associates, the beautiful gopis and the cowherd boys of Vrindavan. Every day, he would just go on Govardhan, perform his pastimes. When he was very little, at that time, he would take the small cows, that is the calves, and he would take them for grazing. And then when he grew up, then he was taking the big cows. So all these wonderful pastimes, that's where he was performing. Now, situated 14 miles west of Mathura, Govardhan, also known as Giriraj, there is a sacred center of Braja and is identified as the natural form of Krishna. So Giriraj is considered to be non-different from Krishna. Now, Govardhan, the word Govardhan has two primary translations. In the literal meaning, the Go word is translated to cows, and Vardhan means nourishment. Okay. And another meaning of Go is the senses, and another meaning of Vardhan is to increase. So basically, the name is also translated by devotees of Krishna as that which increases the senses in their attraction to Krishna. So it is, in this connection, it is believed that the personality of Govardhan blesses the devotees by increasing their devotion. Okay. So by residing in the foothills of Govardhan Hill, all the senses are more inclined to perform eternal service to Krishna, as the word itself translates into basically that our eternal service to Krishna is increased, because our attraction to service to Krishna is increased. Our senses are to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, Giriraj basically descended from Shri Krishna's transcendental abode, Golok Vrindavan, okay, to Vraja on this earth. And he came with secluded, so there were, along with Govardhan, there were many lakes and many caves and many ponds, all came from there. How did it appear? Basically, Giriraj is non-different from Krishna in Tattva. Also, he is considered as the greatest devotee of the Lord, the best of amongst the servants of Hari. Now, Krishna basically, as we know, he lifted Dirgiri Govardhan to curb the pride of Indra, the king of heaven, and he was just 7 years old when he did that, right? And we know that he was 7 years old and he held the hill on his little finger of the left hand for 7 days to curb the pride of Indra. Okay, how did it appear here? So in Garg Samhita, it is described that one day in Golok Vrindavan, Lord Krishna, he informed Srimati Radharani that it is now time for us to go and perform our Leela in the material world. So Radharani, being very attached to Yamuna, Govardhan Hill and Brajadham, she told Sri Krishna that unless these three are present on the material plane, I'm not going. So Sri Krishna assured her, don't worry, before you go, they'll be there. In this, so then obviously Giriraj, he said, it has already appeared on the earth because it was time for Srimati Radharani to go. And Srimati Radharani said that unless Govardhan, River Yamuna and Rajdham are there, I will not be going. So because it was already time for them to descend, so Krishna told them, don't worry, Govardhan is already there. So how did Govardhan come to Bhu Vrindavan from Goloka Vrindavan? Now, when Govardhan, so you know that all the mountains and all these have personifications. So basically Govardhan, he took birth and when among all the different mountains, and they were all very, very happy because they knew that this is the mountain where the Lord is going to perform his pastime. So they were very, very happy to have him amongst themselves, and he appeared as the son of Dronachal. Okay. So it so happened, Dronachal was another big mountain. Govardhan was a very happy-go-lucky mountain, cute little mountain. One time, it so happened that Pulastya Muni was traveling. Okay, when he was traveling and when he came upon the Govardhan hill, he saw this cute little Govardhan hill and got very, very attracted to Govardhan hill. And this Muni was received very well by Dronachal, the father. And we always give some kind of remuneration, some kind of dakshina to the brahmanas. So Pulatsya Muni asked Dronachal that when Dronachal asked him, well, how can I serve you? Now Pulatsya Muni had lost his heart to Giri Govardhan. So he said, if you can give me where I do bhajan, which was in Varanasi, he said there are no mountains there. And it's so peaceful when you sit in the mountains of Giri Govardhan and do your sadhana. I am so attracted to this mountain. Can you please give me this mountain? Dronachal was thinking, how would that be possible? Because compared to Dronachal, Giri Govardhan was small because it came as the sun. But how would Pulastya Muni carry this big mountain to Varanasi? He was just thinking, and moreover, he was thinking that why? I mean, it would be so hard for me to part with my son. But because in those days, whatever the rishis would ask, they were not denied. So with a very heavy heart, he told Pulastya Rishi that let's talk to Giri Govardhan. Let's see what does he want. And I have no problem if he wants to go with you. Giriraj agreed. He said, okay. But then he was wondering that how Pulastya Muni was wondering, how do I carry him? But then he, being the Muni, he had mystic powers. So he reduced the size temporarily of Govardhan so that he was able to carry him. Now Govardhan kept a condition though. He said, I will come with you, but if you leave me on the ground, even for a moment, if you place me on the ground for a moment, I will not move from that place. And Giri Govardhan he put this condition. So Pulastya Muni was thinking, yeah, sure, no problem. So he reduced the size of Giri Govardhan and he carried him on his palm, and he was traveling, he was flying across, going back to Varanasi where he wanted to place Giri Govardhan, and so that he could chant and do his sadhana in that uh, serene atmosphere. Now it so happened that Giri Govardhan, Giriraj also knew that he had come to be in Vrindavan. So the reason why he agreed to be carried to Varanasi, because deep in his heart he knew that he will go to Vrindavan. Now when Pulastya Muni was flying across Vrindavan, it was by the mystic power of Giriraj that Pulastya Muni suddenly felt a very strong urge to attend nature's call. And he was thinking, how do I do it? But because the urgency was such that he didn't think much, and he placed the Govardhan right there in Vrindavan on the ground. Pulastya Muni did not know what is in the mind of Giriraj, but Giriraj knew that this is what he wanted. So then he went, Pulastya Muni. He attended nature's call. He, purified himself. He took bath, whatever. And then when he came back, he asked Giriraj to come back to his hut. Giriraj said, no, I am not coming. So Pulastya Muni said, why so? This is not Varanasi, this is Vrindavan. So then Giriraj reminded him that I had already told you that if you place me on the ground, I am not going back. Pulastya Muni got so angry, he said, but I had to attend nature's call. It was not on purpose, and this is not right. You promised me that you'll come with me. But Giriraj was not ready to move. So Pulastya Muni cursed him that every day you will reduce in size the length of a mustard seed. So Govardhan was very, very tall. So in length, so he was supposed to become shorter. By how much? The size of a mustard seed. So this is, so Krishna came in Dwapar Yuga. Okay, so this time was not that Yuga, and this was in Satya Yuga, right? So then there was a long wait for Krishna to come. So Giri Govardhan agreed. He said, yeah, this works very well, because in Dwapar Yuga, to have this kind of big mountain with its such big mountain peaks, it will be difficult for Krishna to play and on the peaks of Govardhan. So he agreed. He did not get disappointed or anything. He happily accepted the curse. So when he said every day you will reduce in the size, the length of a mustard seed, this took place in Satya Yuga, and at that time Govardhan was miles and miles high. Okay. Now, but actually Govardhan was very, very happy to receive this curse, because he took this as a blessing. He thought when Krishna will come, it will be difficult for him to perform the pastimes on such an immense mountain. So that's fine. If he, is reduced by the size of a mustard seed in length, by the time it is Dwapar Yuga, the size of Govardhan for Krishna to play and perform his pastimes on it would be perfect. So he was very happy. So he graciously reduced, very graciously reduced his size, so that the time when Lord Krishna comes, Govardhan Hill would be, it was about 2 miles high. That's it. And now its highest point is about 80 80 feet tall. We were talking about in height. So in Dwapar, it was 2 miles, and now it is just 80 feet. Okay. So this was very, very important for Giri Govardhan to reduce in size so that Krishna could do his pastime. So this is how Giri Govardhan actually appeared. Giriraj actually appeared on this earthly planet. Now, what is the importance of doing? Yes, Riyansh, tell me of Govardhan.
So, about you said that I learned that everything that gets born will be taken out and stayed with Krishna until he creates a new yuga. So how does Giri Govardhan stay on earth? Because everything will be destroyed after one yuga, right? So
it's not destroyed, it just rests in the body of the Lord. And when after full annihilation, after the day of Brahma, everything comes back the way it was. Yes, Manahar.
I think there are two Govardhans, like they're the same, but one is in Mayapur and one is in Vrindavan.
Yes, so the one in Mayapur is a replica of the one in Vrindavan, and it is considered to be as good as Govardhan in Vrindavan. Have you been to Mayapur?
Yeah, I have went to the Govardhan in Mayapur also.
In Mayapur, yeah. So it's a very small one, and you have Radha Kund and Sham Kund there also. Yeah. So because Mayapur is non-different, Mayapur is the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is non-different than Sri Krishna. Vrindavan is birthplace of Krishna, and so in that regard, both are same. So I've also been there. That is a very cute little Govardhan there. We do the parikrama around that, and right outside that is the Shamakund and Radhakund. So this is exactly what we were talking about. Now we'll be talking about that. What is the importance of doing the Govardhan parikrama? Okay.
Okay.
So performing parikrama of the sacred Govardhan hill, it is very, very auspicious. Why? Because it is an offering of worship to Radha and Krishna. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned how Lord Krishna ordered the Vrajavasis that they worship Govardhan hill. And a very important part of that worship was that all the Gopas and the Gopis, they circumambulated the Govardhan hill. And in this way, they could greatly please the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Okay. So basically, the real path of perfection is to follow in the footsteps of great souls. We know that. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, when he came to Vrindavan, he performed this Govardhan Parikrama. He actually saw every single stone of Govardhan hill to be non-different from the very body of Lord Shri Krishna. And even Madhvendra Puri, he performed the Govardhan Parikrama. Ishwar Puri, Nityanand Puri, Advaita Prabhu, and all these great, great souls, they, with so much of love and devotion, they circumambulated Sri Govardhan. The 6 Goswamis, they considered Govardhan Parikrama as an integral part of their bhajan. Raghunath Das Goswami, he basically was residing near Radha Kund at Govardhan Hill. Sanatan Goswami, while he was living there at Manasi Ganga, at Chakaleshwar Mahadev temple, all these places are there in Vrindavan near Govardhan. So he would do parikrama every single day. And even in his very old age, also he used to do. So like that, many other Vaishnavas, Narottam Das Thakur, Srivasacharya, they also performed Govardhan Parikrama. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he resided near Govardhan Hill. Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they also had their homes near Govardhan Hill and would regularly go to Govardhan Parikrama. Our own, the very dear founder Acharya of ISKCON, Shri A.C. Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Shri Prabhupada, his last desire was also that that he wanted to do parikrama of Govardhan. So in this way, he established the most important and sacred nature of worship. Now, the dust at the foot of Govardhan hill that we walk upon, it is not only sanctified dust of Braja, but is also decorated with the dust of the lotus feet of all these great incarnations and acharyas. Because if you see, Mahaprabhu went, Nityanand Prabhu went, the Goswamis were residing there, our own Srila Prabhupada, his spiritual master. So many acharyas have walked in the same dust of Govardhan. So how very auspicious it is to go and do Govardhan Parikrama. Has anyone done Govardhan Parikrama? Have you been to Govardhan?
I don't know if I've passed through it, but I've never really noticed it when I've been to Vrindavan.
Okay, so when you go to Govardhan, there are a few places that you would visit during that parikrama. It takes you pretty much the whole day, and it is actually advisable to do parikrama in the early morning hours, especially if you're going during the summertime, because it gets really, really hot. Then it is very difficult to do parikrama. If you're going in the cold weather season, then it is still doable, not a problem. But generally, and in fact, Sharad Purnima, that night people do all night they do the parikrama, because then they are able to see the moon, the Ras Leela that was performed during the Sharad Purnima. So it's really, really beautiful. And these places, like, when we go at the beginning of the parikrama, you will see Kusum Sarovar. There's a very beautiful temple there, in Kusum Sarovar. Then you take darshan of Manasi Ganga. Govinda Kunda pastime, this is related to this Govardhan pastime, when Lord Indra was really, really upset by the whole worship being performed for Giriraj rather than him. And, he sent the Samvartaka clouds and what all he could do to stop this. After that, when he understood the real position of the baby Krishna, when he saw him lifting the Govardhan on his little pinky of left hand, he understood his mistake. Now, he was really scared. He was very, very scared to go and seek forgiveness from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he had no other choice. So he went to Lord Brahma to seek his advice. And Lord Brahma said, I've also messed up with Krishna, because if you remember, we did the Brahma Vimohan Leela also. So Lord Brahma told him, better you go with Surabhika. Surabhika being the mother, this is how he was telling him that you go with Surabhika because she's the mother, and in presence of mother, Lord Krishna is not going to be very upset with you. So when Indra, he went with Surabhika and his elephant Airavat to seek forgiveness from Sri Krishna at that time when he did Abhishekam of the Lord with the milk of Surabhi cow and the water that was being, that the Airavat, he used his trunk to basically do the Abhishekam. So the water that was used for the Abhishekam, which then was flowing as the remnant of the Lord, formed a kund. That kund is the Govinda kund. So that kund is also very much related to Govardhan pastime. So that is another place worth seeing, so it normally happens when we go for the parikrama, we may not stop for a very long time at these, special spots, but it is very important. Even if when we are there for some time, we offer prayers using our mind, body, and words, because we don't have that much of a halt at every, break. So like Kusum Sarovar, I was telling you, then Manasi Ganga, Govind Kund, then is Udhav Betak. Udhav Betak is the place where when Lord sent Sri Udhav to console the gopis about the separation that they were feeling from Sri Krishna, that is the place where Udhav sat and tried to not instruct, I would say, but console the gopis regarding the absence of the Supreme Lord. Then, of course, Radha Kund and Shama Kund, we know that Radha Kund and Shama Kund were the places how these kunds came into being. So these are two very special kunds which are there. So these, at least these 5 places during the entire parikrama, which takes around good 8 hours, I would say, around 8 hours. So yeah, so these places we should stop by and offer our prayers using our mind, body, and words. So this time when all of you go to India, and if you are lucky enough to go to Vrindavan, make sure you at least go and take darshan of Govardhan, because it is hard to do the entire parikrama depending on what time of the year you are going. If possible, please do go for the parikrama. If not, at least go for darshan. That will be very, very nice. So at this point, I would like to take a pause. Anybody has any questions, any comments? No, we're good.
Mataji, I have a question.
Mataji,
Yes, Manahar, go ahead.
So when you do parikrama in Vrindavan for Govardhan, are you just supposed to do it with foot?
It is advisable that you do bare feet, but as I said, if it is really very, very hot, then you cannot walk. So you know what? Very close to Govardhan is you cannot climb on Govardhan, right? Because that will be offensive, because Giriraj is none other than Krishna himself. But the way we have sidewalk here, so very close to the hill is a sidewalk which is made of balu. Balu is rate is sand. Okay, so that sand is very, very soft, very, very soft. Okay, even today. So again, there's a whole pastime why that sand is very soft. If you remember the pastime of Bahula, in Bahula 1, when the that calf was when that Bahula cow basically left her calf and went to be eaten by the tiger, that time when and also actually not only at that time, when Mother Yashoda wanted Krishna to wear shoes when before going the very first time to graze the cows, Krishna refused. Krishna said, if my cows are not wearing shoes, I am not going to wear shoes. So Mother Yashoda had 9 lakh cows. Now, if Krishna wanted Mother Yashoda to sew shoes for everybody, it would be 9 into 4. That many 9 lakh into 4, that many shoes she would have had to sew, but which was impossible. So Krishna refused. The cows were so touched because they are all spiritual, so they could understand what Krishna was saying, and Krishna could understand their language. So they were so touched by Krishna's love for them, that they decided the night before they would go and with their feet trample all the stones and granules and make the sand really soft, so that it is not difficult for Krishna to go bare feet there. So that particular area around Govardhan, still the sand is extremely soft. So if you walk on that soft sand, it is doable. But people or devotees in general are very scared, are not very scared, I would say. They just try to, out of a lot of respect, they don't want to be near Govardhan in that regard, because as I said, Govardhan is not different from Krishna. So they take their own precautions in that regard in terms of aparat. So it is very challenging to walk bare feet. If you're doing at night, as I said, in summer or during the Sharad Purnima time, it's doable. But the scorching heat of Vrindavan makes it very, very challenging. It is advisable to do bare feet though.
Because I've been to the Radha Madan Mohan temple in Vrindavan. On top of it, I went in the summer and my foot got burned.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The scorching heat of Vrindavan is challenging. Yes, Aisha, you had a question.
So it's actually a comment. So a few years ago, we were gonna adopt a cow, except the cow was in India, but we still named it her Serbi. But since she was too expensive, we couldn't get her.
Oh, next time, maybe Krishna willing. But that's a very, very nice, noble thought to adopt a cow. It's very nice. All right, so we'll end here and I will see you all next week. Okay? Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
What's your
Hare Krishna Mataji. Bye.
What is Riyan's Ritik?